Morning, people. It's very early in the morning for me. It's like what, 20 minutes to 4, right? I just woke up, just having my cup bulletproof coffee. Yeah, it's enjoying this. Okay, anyway, guys, um, I've started listening to this book called Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed, right? I'm on I'm listening to like the audiobook, right? I'm on like what, the first few chapters, right? And wow, I was all I can say is wow, eh? As I was listening to this book, he was talking about the first few chapters. He's talking about failure, right? The difference between, okay, he's basically comparing two different industries, right? The first one is like the medical industry, right? Um, and then the second one is like the aviation industry, right? So now, uh, these two different industries, they have a different approach to failure, right? The aviation industry, if something happens, right, somebody crashes, a pilot makes a mistake or something, right, their approach, right, is to bring in like a independent sort of like a panel or investigators, right, to go through the crash. They put in like a black box in like every plane, right? The reason for this is so that they can investigate and see, okay, what happened here, where were the problems, how can we prevent them. So like those independent investigators come in, look at the flight, look at everything. Um they go into detail, right? I mean, psychology, they go into psychology, they go into the technical stuff, they go through every single possible reason why a failure would occur within a flight, right? And then they systematically go through it and then try to analyze, okay, what could have happened here, what could have happened here, what could have happened here. And then like all the information is shared across the entire industry of aviation so that whatever happened might not actually happen ever again, right? So that's why if you actually notice, in the aviation industry, there's like very few crashes actually, if you notice, and that was actually on purpose because when they first started with flights, they just discovered that people were actually just more scared of flights, uh, the possibility of them actually crashing. So what they did is that, okay, they established something like that, some sort of institute where they can actually try and reduce the number of deaths that actually occur via the flights and whatnot. So now coming back to uh, the medical industry, right? The medical industry takes a different approach. The medical industry tries to avoid tries to avoid uh, 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 tries to avoid rather investigating, or not really tries to avoid investigating. It's more like they're not, when something occurs or a death or wrongful, not whether it's wrongful or not wrongful, they don't take an approach of, okay, after this happens, what could we have done differently, what could we have solved, or how could we have done this in such a way that it can prevent future deaths from happening, right? They take more of the approach of, well, what happened, it was just a freak accident. Like they'll look at something, like something will happen, and then they'll just be thinking, okay, no, this is just a freak accident, let's continue. And then they continue as if something never happened. So when you look at the medical industry, right, like we're talking about doctors, surgeons, lawyers, why am I saying lawyers, doctors and surgeons, like basically like hospitals and whatnot, the rate at which people die, right, um, from like preventable sort of like either diseases or dying from like operations that wouldn't ordinarily really kill, like operations that would have like a low rate of death, right? They said the statistic is something like the equivalent of like a jumbo jet, like, right, crashing every few hours or something like that, some crazy statistic like that, right? So basically that's like the problem is not really doctors within themselves. Not necessarily saying that doctors are bad people or anything. Um, Actually, we need doctors, but then the problem is the entire industry, their approach to failure, right? Um, yeah, they have an entirely different approach to failure as opposed to the aviation industry. Guys, that's like the best way I could try to explain it without really confusing you, or yeah, I'm trying to really explain it as best as I can. But then yeah, that's like the big differences between the medical industry and then like the aviation industry. Now coming back to why am I telling you this, and then why I'm enjoying this book so much. So basically, as he goes further, what you actually just discover is okay, in most things that you do, right, you should actually expect failure, right? Especially when you're just starting out. Unfortunately, with most of us, we have a really big ego, right? So when you're doing something, all you're just thinking is, ah, no, I'm just, I'm just great. I'm just great at everything. So I'm just gonna succeed at everything, and which is actually not true, right? When you're starting out, actually expect that you may fail. Not even that you may fail. Most of the time, you will actually fail at most things when you're just starting out, right? So you should take the approach of okay, if I'm gonna fail, how can I fail fast, or how can I quickly learn from what I'm failing so that I don't make the same mistake over and over and over and over again. You do this systematically up until you reach to a point where you reach success, right? So you should take the same approach to like either weight loss or health or whatnot, right? The problem with the health industry, right, or the nutrition, right? They say it's like a very young science, right? According to, is it Melissa Hardwick? I think it's Melissa Hardwick. Uh, was it Melissa Hardwick? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll reread that one again. Right? There's this previous book that I read. Right? They say the medical in not the medical industry, nutrition, right, is like a very young science. It's like what, a couple of 100 years old, right? So it's the equivalent to like somebody who's trying to perform brain surgery in the 1800s, right? So a lot of the advice that you actually read in books, and a lot of the science that you actually go on, what, couple of 100 years from now, people will just be looking at us like, oh, these guys were just so crazy. They were eating that. Like, this is the nonsense. They were actually, this was actually posted in a scientific journal, right? So when you think about nutrition, right? Think of it as like I don't know. Uh, it needs a lot of testing. You need to really test a lot of the theories that you read out there. Um, Even whatever advice that I'm giving you, you need to really test it, and see how it actually affects your body, right? W- Rather than just listening to a YouTube advice channel, right? So expect that you may fail. A lot of the things that you're going to try, right? Especially with the ketogenic diet, you may fail, right? But approach it in such a way that even if you fail, you may come back again, looking at what you can fix, how you can fix it, and then fix the problem, and then move right along, right? Anyway, guys, those were my thoughts. I thought that was a really, I think that's a really good book. I'm currently on it right now. Hopefully, I'll be finished with it within this next few days. I just listened to like the first few chapters, and I found it amazing. Anyway, guys, I will see you. Let's fist bump, fist bump, fist bump, fist bump. Okay, anyway, bye. Cheers.